I want you to go a little bit further than operational expenditures. I want you to produce a P&L statement for your organization. So for instance, if you're going to help the business generate $2 million in business, and your expenses by way of head count, hardware, whatever it is going to be $1.5 million, then your sort of profit and loss statement starts to look like you're making $500,000. I don't expect, if you're going to talk about a startup company, then I need you to generate a cash flow, which we didn't talk about, but hopefully somewhere in this project, 629 they should have. But if you're not a startup, cash flow is less important to me. So at a minimum, I need you to think about how much money am I going to spend in this new IT strategy? How much money is my company going to make to generate a P&L statement for like 3 years? P&L, profit and loss, right? So this is how much money I'm making, this is how much. So for instance, if your strategy is going to lose $1 million a year, probably not a good strategy. I want you to at least think about it. Now I'm not asking you to do the grandiose, finance analysis in the world, but at a minimum, your expenses have to cover your in-house headcount. You're going to have to make a decision about whether you're outsourcing. If you're outsourcing, how much money are you going to spend on outsourcing? How much money am I going to spend on hardware? If you're going to use the cloud, who am I going to go to the cloud with? How much is that going to cost? You have to do a little bit of analysis of how much Microsoft charges. In fact, that's what you're going to do. Now, on the capital side, some things are capitalized, some things are not. If you're going to buy hardware, that's capitalized. On the development process, different companies, you have capitalization rules in your country? What can be capitalized and what can't?
Yes.
Capitalization means is you don't take the expense all in 1 year. Even though you expend it, you take it over the lifetime of whatever it is that you're like. If you're buying a chunk of computer, and you think the computer's going to last 5 years, you would capitalize over 5 years. So if it costs you $1,000, you divide 5 into 1,000. You'd only take that expense for that. So, but there are certain rules in terms of what can go in there. Like the United States, when we look at the development process, right? The salaries can go in there. Actually, that's not true. Salaries can't go in there, but consulting salaries can. The middle of the development process can go in, but the front and the back end, like the testing and the other piece, cannot go into capitalization. Years ago, companies would not capitalize that much. That's changed over the last 10 years or more. People capitalize almost as much as they can because it takes less of a hit on their expenses in any given year, which makes their profit and loss look better. And if you're on a stock market, you want that to be the case. The downside of doing that is if you keep moving expense out, right? Say you capitalize this much this year, this much, you got to keep paying, and it adds up, right? Because if you capitalize $100 here, and $200 here, and $300 here, sooner or later you got to keep paying it, right? So that's the downside. That being said, most people capitalize almost everything they can. So in your IT strategy, if it was to increase your response time or whatever, and you were going to buy all these new servers, you got to figure out how much that costs, right? And you can say, I'm going to capitalize that, so I need that kind of a budget. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, there's a little bit more. One of the modules I jumped over is that, it talks a little bit more. So you can go online and look at what I said about the difference between capitalization and operational budget. The other thing I need you to think about is, what is your operational strategy? You need to think about sort of your hiring, how you're going to staff. Is it the same as we've been doing before? Am I hiring only full-time employees? Am I going to hire consultants? Already mentioned the outsourcing thing. If you choose to outsource, I need you to talk a little bit about what's your strategy for outsourcing. I showed you a bunch of slides on how you would select a vendor. What's the security risk or strategy risk if I'm going outside? How do I identify metrics? There's a whole section on metrics. I need you to define the metrics for your organization. Could be some of what we talked about before. Could be others. Return on equity, return on income. New ones like customer satisfaction, profitability I talked before. You could use a balanced scorecard if you choose. But most important, how are you going to be valued? You could create a dashboard, right, for your organization. Now, I should say this. I should say up front. You can create a strategy for a whole organization, the whole IT organization. You could create a strategy for a new part of the IT organization or a part that exists, or you can create a strategy to introduce some new service, which is the whole virtualization, client-server, cloud computing thing. If you want to leverage what you already did, you can say, okay, I'm going to describe a strategy, how I'm going to take cloud computing and implement it in my company. And as I said several times, you've done some of the work that's on this page already, so you can just slide it in. I don't need you to do it again. But there's a whole bunch of stuff you didn't do, and I have to make sure you do that, which is the strategy itself, alignment, you know, all the good stuff. My wife tells me I shouldn't say crap. It makes it sound like it's bad, right? All the good stuff that we've been talking about. And the bottom is another version of Porter. So the way this document will look is you'll have a cover sheet like you guys had the last time. You have a table of contents with page numbers, and you have page numbers on every page. You'll have an executive summary, and then you'll go section by section. And if some of them don't apply, just leave them out. You don't have to keep the numbering scheme. Like if marketing doesn't apply, just drop it out. Right? There might be some things that I missed, which I don't think, but if there are things that I missed that you think are needed for your strategy, for your company, then by all means insert them. My guess is that you'll end up with a fair amount of pages, only because there's a lot of stuff I'm asking you to do, and it'll be difficult to do it in 10 pages. If you did it in 10, then God bless you. My guess is it'll be between 25 and 50. I'm not big into the number of pages. I don't want you to generate 50 or 100 pages to make you feel good, because I got to read it. Whatever you generate, I got to read. So make sure you're not just putting a bunch of fluff in there.
What's the sweet spot? 35?
Every semester somebody asks me that question. And my answer is, you're trying to get me to tell you what's the minimal amount you can do to get a good grade. When you should be looking at the opposite. What is the most you can do to do a good job for your company?
Actually, we have the opposite problem. We found out that we had too many pages for and we started cutting back.
Well, you're the cloud guys, right? You did a great. It was kind of long, but it was very thorough. You know, it's actually one of the better, maybe even the best cloud computing thing that I've had done. I've taught this class. This is the third semester in this format, and I got a bunch of people coming from all over the place, and they weren't as thorough as you. They didn't get the notion that I wanted you to not only talk about your company, but I wanted you to talk about the research on the cloud part, right? Which you guys did, right? Not everyone did that, right? In terms of your subject matter, it wasn't just talking about the company, etc. So it was long, but I'd rather be complete. Some people are good at consolidating stuff, but in your case, you put in all these diagrams and that takes some pages. The ultimate goal here is not to make you do a lot of work. The ultimate goal is to prove that you understand the materials. Hopefully, if you do it, like in some cases you've already picked companies you work for, that you might be able to leverage it somehow, right? Some piece of what you're doing, right? Your business is smaller, right? You have 50 people. Maybe there's something you can do there, I don't know. But maybe you can leverage it somewhere, tomorrow or next year or whatever, when people start talking about strategy. You have got some stuff that you can talk about, maybe we should do this or that, or maybe you can influence your managers, etc. So that's the hope. All right, so I think we're good to go. It's been a pleasure working with you guys.
Right.
I am the official speaker of the group.
Oh, is that right?
The class closer.
If I would have known that, I would have been nicer to you.
Can you see it around?
That's why they missed me so much last time. In the name of the group, we just want to say thank you very much for your time and effort. We know it's hard, especially after the situation in New York. For you taking your time to come here and share your knowledge with us. We really appreciate not only the fact that you have to come and do what you have to do, but the way we feel the love and the passion you put on it, so we can learn the most of you and experience your own experiences. So we hope, besides the 9 o'clock schedule thing, that you have enjoyed your visit to the Dominican Republic. I hope we did better than other groups, and we really enjoy working with you and learning from you. So thank you very much. So, round of applause.
It's been my pleasure. Good luck. Also, I will mark the papers you gave me. I've already read the ones I had. I'll try to mark them on the plane going home. So the next 3 or 4 days, you'll see some confidence. I'll try to attach some things if necessary.
That's good.
And it sounds like in a few weeks, before the 4th, I'm gonna see this unbelievably good document. Since I gave you more time, it's gonna have to be a little better. All right, take care, everybody.
Okay.
If you need me for anything, I mean, I respond to, although my BlackBerry doesn't work very well in the Dominican Republic, but when I'm home, if you send me emails, I respond pretty quickly. So if you need me for anything, I think some of you guys are sending me notes. I got back to you pretty quickly. So
Very
same is
quickly.
true. So if you have any questions about that or anything else going forward in terms of anything you think I can help you with, I'll be glad to do that.
We have a last request.